Hello, hello. Seems I have a problem with my X300. I've got a flat tire, and it's like flat. It's like pancake flat, rim against the floor kind of flat. This is probably the third time this has happened. And every time it happens, it's immediately after I top it off. Every once in a while I notice it's a little soft, so I top it off with the air compressor, go mow, and then the next day it's flat. So this is the only tire on the tractor that has a tube in it. And the previous owner told me that the dealer had tried to fix this tire over and over again because it was going flat. They finally gave up and put a tube in it. What's wrong with it? I have no idea. I'm guessing because of its behavior, it could be something with this valve stem. Maybe the Schrader valve sticks open when I fill it, and then I put the cap on and it leaks slowly and I just don't notice that. So I aims to get to the bottom of this. All right, so I'm going to give this thing a quick once over. I think what I'll do is I'll check out this Schrader valve here. Doesn't really look like it's centered in the valve stem. So I'm going to put a little bit of air in it, and then I'll check it with some soapy water and see if I see bubbles. Seems to take air just fine. So I've got a little spray bottle here with some soapy water in it. I'm not seeing anything. Check around the bead too. Oh. Something's going on. There's a bubble forming right around the base of this stem. So maybe there's an internal leak. Now I got a bubble up here. Yeah, so it must be leaking inside somewhere. Put a little more air in it. I got about 20 pounds in it, which is more than what it's rated for. Well, it's probably rated for more than that, but it's more than the recommended. I'm seeing just a little bit starting to come out from around there, so maybe this tube is leaking internally somehow, and it's making its way out the bead. I guess maybe I'll have to take this off, break it down, and see what's going on. Alright, so I've soaked this thing down with soapy water on both sides, checked the valve stem, checked the Schrader valve, and I'm not seeing anything. I've even soaked down the sidewalls to see if something was leaking through there. So I'm not sure what's up. So I'm thinking now what I'm going to do is let the air out of this inner tube and break this bead and see if I can see anything. Maybe even pull the inner tube out and inspect it, and see if it's got maybe a hole worn through it from chafing against the inside of the tire, or maybe it got pinched or twisted when it was installed, so now it's got a pinhole leak in it. So I guess I'll get to work on that. I have a little tire tool that I got from Harbor Freight that I use for this kind of stuff, and it's pretty useful for breaking the bead, so I'll show that. So this is the Harbor Freight tire changing tool, and it's a unique blend of useful and awful. It's awful in that it's flimsy and actually kind of difficult to use to mount a tire but it's useful in that you can chuck it in the vise. You can mount the tire right here on this stem. You can lock it down in place and then pry on it to break the bead open. So it's got this arm, and then there's a bar that attaches here, and I can push down on the sidewall and break the bead. First I gotta let the air out of it. Coming right off. It wasn't even seated. Oh, yeah, it came right off. Check out the other side. Jeez, that came right off it. It's almost too easy. I'm not seeing anything really wrong with this wheel or the bead. I'm kind of puzzled as to why they put a tube in the tire. I wonder if I can get this thing out. I'm going to flip it back around and work on the valve stem side. It's a thick tube. They put sealant stuff in there at some point, so they tried to do something with it. Now I'm sweating. Okay, so I've cleaned this entire joint. The bead, the edge of the rim, I don't see anything crazy. Everything is smooth and it's like squeaky clean now. I just took a little bit of brake clean and cleaned the interface. I cleaned this bead. I don't feel anything weird here. No chunks of rubber missing, no broken wire or anything like that. So I'm going to flip this around and clean the other side. I just put a little bit of brake clean on a rag. Just start wiping it down. Okay, now this side feels equally as good. And I can almost set the bead by hand, just pushing it in place like this. Okay, I think I'm ready to try to remount this thing. So I'm really puzzled as to why they gave up on it. And I'm wondering if they never replaced the valve stem. I've seen these break and leak before, and you pass right over them because you're checking the sidewalls, you're checking the bead, and even looking for punctures on the tread side of the tire. I'm going to let my own arrogance guide me here. If you've seen any of my other videos, you know I dragged home a couple of 165s, John Deere 165s, basically from a graveyard, and none of them would have, maybe 1 out of the 8 tires between those 2 tractors would hold air when I bought them. And by the time I was done with them, I had 7 out of 8 holding air without a tube. There was one wheel and tire I needed a tube, and that was because I took a big chunk out of the bead by prying on it with a screwdriver. But what I learned was cleanliness is really important. I went through all the interfaces and I cleaned the inside of the rim here, just cleaned it like crazy. Some of them were rusted and I thought they would never seal. But I wire brushed the living daylights out of them with a wire wheel on a drill. And then I cleaned as much as I could out of the beads and got them to seat and got them to hold air. It was pretty incredible. These things are quite robust. They do pretty well. So I've got a brand new valve stem. And I'm going to put them in, and I'm going to try to get this thing seated. So what I got to do is get this pulled through the back side and get it up over this lip right here. And I got to make sure this joint's clean too, and it is. It looks really good. And hopefully I can get that done. So I'm going to take this cap off, and I got a steel cap I'll put on, and I'll pull on it with pliers. I don't have a steel cap, but I got the old cap from the tube. So I will use that. All right, now I got to lubricate that. I'm going to use my soapy water. Just got to push and pull. There we go. Now that's in. Dry it off a little. Okay, I went ahead and got the bead on the other side of the tire set just by hitting it with some soapy water and pulling down on this. It looks pretty good. So now I'm going to take the valve stem out of this new, I'm going to take the Schrader valve out of this new valve stem. That way I can just pump air into it, and then it won't hold pressure if I have a problem. The sun is shining and it's raining outside. Imagine that. So now I'm going to soap this down. Actually, the best thing to use, isopropyl alcohol is an awesome lubricant when you're doing rubber on steel. The only problem is it's really dangerous because it's flammable. So you have to absolutely make sure you don't get it near any spark or flame or anything like that. But soapy water is fine for a lawnmower. Okay, we're soaped up. Try to get this thing seated. What I'll do is, I got a trigger, so I'll pump air into it and try to wiggle this thing around until it seats. lucky there. Probably exercise it a few times to get the soapy water out. That's why alcohol is really good to use, because it evaporates so quickly and doesn't stick around. Another thing I can do is just pull this back a little bit and get the soap out of there, because the bead's already seated, but we can peel this guy back just a little bit and get any remaining soap out. Okay, valve's going back in. It's supposed to have about, I don't know, 14 pounds in it. I'm going to put 20 in it to make sure it's seated. I'm going to set it on the floor and just check it again. Okay, I've soaked this thing for a few minutes with soapy water around the bead. I don't see anything. Looks pretty good. I put air in the inner tube that came out of it. I don't see anything on that yet either, but I haven't looked at it very closely. I'm going to go ahead and flip this over and check the other side. There's a few bubbles that'll show up just from spraying it out. What I usually do is just knock those out of the way. Make sure nothing comes back. Not seeing anything on this so far either. No, I'm saying there's nothing here. At least nothing on the sidewall. I don't hear anything hissing. It's still holding pressure really good. Pretty happy with that. Only time will tell. There might be something else going on. Hopefully not. But I'm good to slap this thing back on. And I'll tell you what, another thing the soapy water does, it really cleans the heck out of this. This wheel and tire really looks good now. Should do that to the rest of the tractor. Well, maybe not. Okay, well there we have it. We're all done with this. Hopefully it stands up. So the question is, do I really need an inner tube? I would say most of the time, no. As I mentioned earlier, I got rotten tires to hold air on a couple old tractors that I dragged out of the brush. Now, these things had tires that were off the wheels when I dragged them out. And I got it to work just simply by cleaning the heck out of everything and putting in new valve stems with new Schrader valves. And most of the time, I would say that's probably going to fix it. The only time it won't is if you, one, damage the bead, two, you've run over something and put a big hole in it and it's patchable, but maybe the patch doesn't hold. And then in that case, I would say, yeah, get an inner tube. Now this thing that came out of it, still not sure why they put it in. I'm going to guess maybe laziness, I'm not sure. But whoever did it did a nice job. I can only see a few places where maybe there was dirt inside of the wheel, inside of the housing, and it got pressed against here's a little spot right there, and maybe got pressed against the inner tube when they inflated it, but otherwise it was very clean. And this is a good inner tube too, real thick. I had put an inner tube in one of my other tractors, the only tire I couldn't fix, and it was real thin, but it worked. But it was the same size, but I wasn't real impressed with its quality. I just got it down to the local big box store. So there you have it. That's it. If you found this useful, awesome. Are you a subscriber? Great, thank you. If you like what you see, subscribe. Consider subscribing. The more subscribers I get, the more inspiration I get to make more content and do more things. And it won't necessarily be with this tractor. In fact, I'm trying to put together a review of this e-bike that I've got here, and that's coming up. So I do all sorts of little things, and yeah, we'll see what comes next. I don't know. So again, thanks for watching. Take care.